It's time to wander the world with Sharon. Enjoy this Big Blend radio podcast featuring award-winning travel writer and photographer Sharon K. Kurtz. So welcome, everyone. It is time to wander the world with Sharon. Sharon is here every first Wednesday, and excited today. We are going back to Bavaria, and we're going to talk about her train travels and all the excursions she did off of the train, which is kind of like going on a cruise, right? You cruise, then you get off, you explore, and you get back on, and you don't have to unpack your suitcase again. Have I got that right, Sharon?
Yeah, it's great to be with you. And
Yeah.
my this month is all about riding on the train and going to day stops as you go. And it's kind of a different experience, but yeah, you get to stay in one room the whole time, kind of like a cruise. You don't have
Oh,
to
wow.
unpack the whole time. You just walk down to the train station and go somewhere new.
Wow. So when you're doing this kind of train, you have your own room, or are you bunking up with others?
This is a different kind of travel. And the reason I picked it was I went to Germany to go to a German travel symposium all about what's new in Germany now. And I had a week in between my cruise starting and after the symposium. So I thought, what can I do for a week? And that's when I thought, I love to travel by train. Nuremberg is right in the middle. It has a great city to start from. And then I started working with the Visitors Bureau to hook me up on great places to go. I'm going to write a story about train travel in Germany, one different place per day. And they did. And it worked out great. But I based myself in Nuremberg and then stayed in a hotel just right down the street from the train station. And I jumped on a different train every day.
So you're not sleeping on the train.
No, you have a place to stay. And this Bayern ticket, it's with a D&B train travel. You get the app and it's very reasonable. It was $20 some a day to go anywhere I wanted in Bavaria. And I chose a different place every day. And then if you go with your family or your loved one, it's extra cheap because it's yourself. And then for $10, you add your partner. And then it's a very reasonable way to travel.
This is exciting. I like that. And then you get all the comforts of the hotel. And Nuremberg itself is a destination that is, I think, on a lot of people's bucket list to do because of just the history, right?
Yeah. It really is fascinating. It was an imperial free city way back from the 11th century. Then it has a big castle. It has the old town. It has all these famous cathedrals. And then, of course, World War II era happened. And so now it's known for the Nuremberg trials and the Nazi parade grounds, they call it. And, I really commend Germany today because they do not shy away from their past. They put it out there. They say, this is what happened. And this is what we have to do to prevent it from ever happening again. So, and the Nuremberg new movie is just coming out or just came out. So that's another reason why people are fascinated with Nuremberg.
Well, your friend Barbara Redding, travel writer
Yes.
Barbara Redding, is
Yeah.
on the show with the International Food, Wine, Travel Writers Association, which is how we connected. She's on the show the second Friday of this month, talking about the connection from Nuremberg to upstate New York, because
That
there's a
is
whole center
fascinating.
there dedicated to the gentleman who really, put these laws into place. So I love this, everyone. This is just a fantastic connection because it really does affect, the States was part of that. And
Yes.
really saying we will not tolerate this. And I think it's really great because doesn't Germany kind of has this zero tolerance of any of that kind of behavior?
They do. They most certainly do. Another interesting thing was, before I was a travel writer, I used to lead tours for women.
Right.
And one time I led a tour. It went through Prague, Germany, all over the place. And we went to Germany and learned one of my travelers, her father was an attorney on the Nuremberg trials. He was one of them. And she was fascinating. She told us kind of about, she didn't live there. This was before she was born, this is before, but it was fascinating, her stories about that her dad told about being on the trial.
Wow. I mean, it's just, and we're going to see, it's kind of like history right now with that is very close with what's happening, between, boy, let's not get into all the world drama, but it's sad. But it's kind of like Germany learned really went for democracy, right? And, now it's like we have this just very upfront in our face, yet it's still happening in the world. I can't believe that. And I think I would like to take all world leaders and take them traveling with us all because I think they don't really get to explore these sites and really take time in museums to really embrace it. Because I think if the world leaders and our even national leaders took more time to really understand these things, maybe things would be a little bit better. That's just my 2 cents. Travel is everything about really understanding how different and yet how connected we all are. And don't we all want a happy life, right? A
Yeah,
safe
I
place
think
for our families.
it educates us and it opens our eyes to the world. There's more people out there than just our country, our city, our little
Yeah. Little piece
concerns.
of suburbia or wherever we are,
Yeah,
or farm or
right.
wherever we are. It's like we may be secluded in, a rural landscape, but it still doesn't mean you're not connected to all these people around the world. So travel really, I don't think I can ever stop, you
Mm,
know? I don't think so. It's
mm.
kind of, I don't know, once it's under your skin, man, it's just you just want to keep learning and seeing something new. But I love this. So you set yourself up in this hotel,
Yeah,
right? Is it,
and
it
it
was a
was
good hotel?
it was a Sheraton, and, people who travel, we have, Marriott Bonvoy points, and I was able to stay there for 5 nights for the price of 4, and then you get Marriott Bonvoy privileges of happy hour, and I barely had to pay for any meals because breakfast is included, and then you get back 6-ish, there's a wonderful happy hour that's
What?
almost like a full meal, and so,
A happy
anyway,
hour?
they even had happy hour with all these German specialties and that wonderful wine. We talked about the Bad Kissingen wine that
Uh,
they're known for with the interesting bottle.
the bottle that represents
Yeah,
sheep.
yeah, the
Sheep.
ball-shaped bottle.
Well, there we go. I'm sorry, we're gonna go there. You can't do it halfway. So everyone, I do in the episode notes, there is a link to last month's interview because it really kind of connects with the history and everything, right? So this is just like an epic experience. I also want to say in the episode notes, this is super important. Read the episode notes, whether you're watching this on YouTube, on Facebook, if you're listening, Podbean, Apple, wherever, check out the notes because we are very excited because Sharon's got an article about her rail adventures, and this article is now in her brand new Big Blend Radio Podcast Magazine. Who has these? I don't know, but we're doing this. Every single podcast channel of Big Blend will have a digital magazine going forward as of now. It is happening. And this is all part of our expansion because in 2027, we are turning 30 years old. So,
Wow,
yes, we're
that is
ancient.
incredible.
We're ancient. But it's really getting into this, digital magazines are so user friendly, whether you're on a phone, reading on an iPad or whatever it is, they are user friendly. You can find them. They're finally happy with Google searches and even AI reads them, so it's all there. But anyway, for travel, it just feels better to have a magazine. So Sharon's art magazine is kicking off with this article for Bavaria, so you can check it out and see the photos nice and big. And isn't it better? This is so
Yeah,
exciting.
it's really cool. It's the modern age.
I love this. So the first one was Morocco for another travel writer. Now yours is Bavaria. And then the next is wine recipes. I mean, this is pretty fun. Bavaria is pretty cool, though. All the architecture. And I think that's the beauty of seeing it in a magazine. You can see them bigger, the images. So you can actually see the detail of the architecture in the places that you went through in Bavaria, because I would say that is part of the charm is the buildings, right?
Yeah, that's why it's so fascinating, as we know, to travel for the culture and architecture and all the things you learn. So I went to some interesting places. Can we talk about the first place I went?
Yes, yes, yes.
Well, I went to a place that not many people, Americans, I don't think, really think about. It's called Bad Kissingen. It
But,
is a
but,
bad means
oh,
spa. And so this town is from the 8th century, started in the 8th century. So they have these mineral springs in this area, and they learned from so long ago that they can help with your physical ailments. If you drink it, it can help cure things that are going around on your insides, gastro issues. So ever since the 8th century, like all these important people in history have gone there for the cure. And it got so important that it's got like
Hmm.
little palaces there, and it's got these
Oh,
bathhouses, and the bathhouses have old wooden bathtubs where people used to go to take the cure. You've heard that phrase when people say
I'm
taking the
going to take
cure,
the card.
kind of comes
Yes.
from these spa towns in Germany. So I went there. I went to, and they used to have like on Sunday, they had big open areas that they had music and dancing in these spa towns because people would go there, and that's where you for the social season to these spa towns. So I went to this place. I actually drank the water, and let me tell you, it's a mineral spa. The water I drank was the type for your inside, and it tasted like earth and really sharply mineral, but it's got good stuff in it because people even today go to these spa towns to take the cure. And there's doctors there everywhere that will work with patients who need help.
Oh, wow. So this is the thing. So Bad Kissingen, I
Yeah,
don't know if I'm saying it correctly, but Bad is like bath, right?
means bath. And you'll hear that. And there's several places in Germany that start with the word bad, and that means it's an old spa town. So
Oh,
this is one of them that was right on my rail route, just an hour or so from
yeah.
Nuremberg.
Wow. And this is also a UNESCO World Heritage Site, which we
Yes.
love, right?
Yes.
And then what's great, you were talking about the people that were there, like Otto von Bismarck, Alexander the Second, and then the Empress Elizabeth of Austria. So didn't you
Yeah.
didn't
Yes.
you travel and see where she was at one point?
Yes. Vienna.
Yes. Are we
Yeah.
getting our empresses
Exactly.
mixed up? We
So
got
you'll see in the place they have old photos, and a lot of places where they used to have high tea, but the tables are very far apart because the ladies of the time had these gigantic hoop skirts, and they had to be careful how they sat. Anyway, it's a fascinating place, and you go there. And you can arrange a tour. I had the most wonderful guide who lived there, and he took me all around, took me into the bathhouses. They even had in one of these bathhouses, I didn't sit in one of the wooden tubs, but they had this strange contraption. It kind of looked like a spaceship. It opened up and the person sat in it, and the water would come in and it would cure your like arthritis. And I didn't give you the picture because it looks crazy. It looks like I'm sitting in a spaceship and all you see is my head sticking out of this white hole. And below
wow.
me is where they used to have steam coming in for the cure.
The Cure.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So The Cure, I mean, how many historical novels have you read where they go and she took the cure?
Yeah.
Okay. What was it? Was it Laudanum or now in this case? No, it was a spa town. Uh,
Yes.
now you went to Bayreuth?
I know, this is strange. It looks like Beirut, but no, you pronounce it Bayreuth.
Well,
Bayreuth. That is another very interesting town. Also, an UNESCO things going on in that town. It is where it was a Margrave situation. Who I'm going to say ran the town, but that's very wrong. He was a very famous nobleman, and he married Wilhelmina, who was the sister of King
mhm.
Frederick in Prussia. And she married down, she thought. She missed her chance. She didn't get to be big and important like her brother. And she married into this little Margrave place, Bayreuth. Well, she was competing with her brother. So the nobleman was very generous with his wife, and she wanted to build all these public spaces. She wanted her little town of Bayreuth to be important in history. So she built like this world famous opera house. It is colored in to this. I went on a tour through it. It's covered with gold. And it was like the biggest things of its day. And then she built a new palace because surprisingly, the old palace that she didn't like very much, somehow a flame, it burned down. We don't know why, but anyway, she got her new palace. So she built a brand new palace. And
Her
yeah,
insurance
I don't know.
agent.
No one knows how that happened, but she did get her new palace. And anyway, she was so extravagant that she almost bankrupted Bayreuth. And they eventually became a part of Bavaria because they didn't have the money to stand on their own. But because she built those palaces, we have them today to admire. I mean, it's
Wow.
really a wonderful thing.
So these are all opera houses and palace.
Palace and opera house. But then years later, like 100 years later, you've heard of Wagner.
Richard Wagner?
Yes. Okay. He was incredible as a musician, and he came, and the king at the time was very impressed with him, and so he came to Bayreuth because of the famous opera house that was already there. But he wasn't happy with it, so the king helped him build his own opera house, and he lived and died there in Bayreuth. And people today still go to Bayreuth every year for they pronounce it Wagner, the Wagner Festival. It's 150 years they've had this Wagner Festival. And I went to the house where the king also helped him build this fabulous house that is now the Wagner Museum. And he was a little tiny man. I mean, I don't even think he was 5 feet tall. And anywhere he traveled, of course, by coach in that day, so long ago, he took his dogs with him. He was a dog lover. And there behind his house are his gravestones of his most loved pets. I thought that was
We
very
like that.
touching. That during World War II, of course, Bayreuth was very bombed, and they rebuilt his house just like it had been. But there behind the house is still the graves of the dogs that were never touched.
Wow. That's a story. These are amazing stories that you're coming back with. You know, that's the thing. It's not just looking at a building. It's like, who built the building? Why did they
Yeah.
build
Well, you
this?
go to
What's the
this little place in
circumstance?
Bavaria with an UNESCO world famous opera house, and you think, why? Why do they have something that looks like it should be in Russia? Well, because Wilhelmina's brother was from Russia, and she wanted an opera house every bit as opulent as in a very big city.
Wow. Okay. So now I know you got to some Baroque palaces and vineyards. Everyone, Würzburg. Am I saying this right or
Yeah,
wrong?
Würzburg. Yep.
And everyone in Germany. Sorry if we're not getting it right,
Yeah.
especially me. If I've not been there, I tend to mess up the names.
No.
And by the way, what's it like getting around? Speaking of different language, how is Germany for those of us who really have no clue how to speak German?
Well, they are so welcoming and kind to those of us. You know, when we live in our own little country, we speak English, we just expect everyone else to speak English. And of course, why? Why should we expect such a thing? But I'm terrible with languages. My sister is a linguist and speaks I don't know how many languages, and I
Oh
can
wow!
barely say Guten Morgen, you know. I'm so bad,
But
but
you did
they
it.
are very welcoming and you can get around not knowing
Okay.
German.
Okay. Well, that's good. We got to know that. Tell us a little bit about Würzburg because this to me sounds like beautiful. Well, it's beautiful. I've seen the pictures too. So we've got cobblestone streets and vineyards
Yeah.
and trees.
So Wolfsburg was called a prince bishop place, and they are known because the prince bishops who are part of the Pope and Catholicism, they built this fabulous fortress in Würzburg, and then this famous in the city palace called the Residence. Well, that's one part of Würzburg. It's an UNESCO site. It is the most opulent place you've ever seen, with a ceiling that is a mural, the largest mural in the world, in this
Wow.
residence palace. And it was destroyed in World War II, not the mural, but the roof. It was bombed and the bombs burned the roof, but they were lucky that they were able to save the mural that is still there today. So anyway, Würzburg is part of the wine area of Germany.
Was that mural? Did they? I mean, they were able to save it, and it was still I mean, it was on the wall. Or
No, it's the ceiling. This palace, the whole ceiling is a mural, the most beautiful mural you've ever seen. And then the roof was above it and it burned, but it stopped right before the mural and it was not destroyed, which is a miracle. And it's
that is
fabulous mural to this day, built by an Italian artist. It's beautiful. So Würzburg,
wine.
it's famous for its wine, and there's vineyards everywhere. But what I loved about it, which was so unusual to me, is the whole city, they celebrate their vineyards and they have a few very important vineyards. So the residence palace itself has right under it the grapes come in and they make wine right under this palace. And that's their
Okay.
own vintage of the wine. So then they have these, I'm going to sound so terrible, but it's like hospitals. There's 3 of them in Würzburg, and they're each famous and old. And there's one called the Burgerspital. Um, that's where I went. So these 3 hospitals, they all produce wine, and then
Wait a minute. A hospital
yeah,
produces wine.
it supports senior living. So the money they make from the vineyards support the hospital. And they actually have in the area like a little wine room, and the residents all get like a glass or 2 a day. This
Okay, I'm
wine.
thinking about where I'm going to retire,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
this is sounding good.
It's good for you. Wine is good for you. So anyway, they have the most famous one of the famous wine cellars to this day in the bottom of this wine estate. And I went there with huge barrels in a cave and had my wine right in down in this wine estate barrel room.
How many of us listening, right, are thinking, wait a minute, this is the way to end our years is, at a winery, in a hospital, you've got medical care, but yet you get wine, and
Yeah, wine
consuming
is
wine helps the health
part
of
of
the
their daily
elders.
life.
This is okay. I need to do this trip.
Not
And I
such a bad.
love you're not driving. You've got
Right.
train rides. It's relaxed. You don't
Yeah.
have to unpack every day. And then you have happy hour at the end of the day
Yeah.
at your hotel. Okay. Yeah, no wonder I didn't hear from you when you were gone there. She's like, I've got Wi-Fi, but I'm having wine. I'm
Yeah.
looking at all these historic sites. Is it very pedestrian when you get out
Yeah.
to do these excursions?
Yeah, so what else is nice about this regional train is it lets you out right in the middle of the city. And so you're solo like I was, or you're with a partner and you don't have no one's organizing it for you. Well, it's so easy. There's 2 ways I did it. One, you always go to the visitor center. It's always either right in the train station or very close. On your phone, you make sure you have service. That's one thing. You need your service from home or a SIM card where you can pull up Google Maps, you can walk to where you want to go and pull up information. So you go by route visitor center and you go there and you pick up maps, you find out what to do. It's very easy to do it on your own.
So this
So
is,
you just
I love
walk wherever you want to go.
So this is the last, interview too. We were talking about the cruise line being just for solo travelers. So you've had 2 really good solo travel experiences.
Really did. I
Uh,
enjoyed it, and it's easy. And if you go with a friend, even better. But I still had a great time. I was in Germany on my own, and so I made the best of it and did these 2 fun things on my own.
okay. So now what about, okay, wait a minute. I want to go back to Würzburg
Yeah.
because one of the things there goes back into we're having all this fun, but then let's get serious because
Yes.
this area also has a memorial. The one
Yeah.
central train station was from the Holocaust.
Yes. Well, that was really, it was a little startling. I was walking back to the train station to catch my train, and I came upon all of these. They were stone or a sculpture of suitcases and shoes and like a musical instrument all stacked up on the way to the airport, to the train station. And I thought, what is this? And I read the sign, and it was a memorial for what happened to the Jews in this terrible time, that they would force them. And Bavaria was front and center in the Nazi machine. They were there. And so they rounded up all the Jews and they forced them to the camps. And right there, they had what it must have looked like as all their belongings that they had to leave behind were piled up. And it talked all about it. There was a QR code for more information just because it said, so we never forget. This is what happened, and we cannot let it happen again.
Wow. Ooh, see, this is the history that I wish other people saw,
Yeah.
through travel, where it becomes very real. And then a lot of times it's like, no, I don't want to see it. Well, we must.
Yeah.
We must. We
So
must. We must
It got my
acknowledge it.
attention.
Yeah, really. Now, Rothenburg, Ob der Tauber. Step
Yes.
back in time, right? Roth.
Yeah. That
Um,
was what's called a free imperial city. It was its own, like, very important place. And it was, they have medieval walls to this day. Oh, and then I keep making mistake. It's pronounced Rothenburg. You don't
oh,
pronounce
sorry.
the TH, Rothenburg. So they had 42 towers, medieval walls, and it had a skyline that was so beautiful. So then, the 30-year war came, and it became less and less. It really was, didn't do well during the war, and it became less important, and it kind of like just kind of fell away from history. And that's why it still today has many of the towers and the medieval walls that you can walk around, like 2 miles around the city on the medieval wall. So it's
Wow.
beautiful.
Wow. Wow. I mean, this history is so deep, you know? All right. So now we're going to switch gears from wine to beer. We're going to talk about canals and cathedrals. This is Bamberg or Bamberg. I don't know.
It was only like an hour from Nuremberg on the train, but it was so different. It was an imperial city. That was like where it was kind of like an offshoot of, I'll probably say it wrong, but of Rome and the Pope there. So it was an imperial city, very important. And it's kind of in a different area where they're known for their beer. Now, I'm not a beer drinker, but I needed to bring beer home to my family because they are beer drinkers, and they have this special beer called Russian beer. And it's like smoked beer, almost like, it got too close to the campfire and it kind of smells smoky, or, you had smoked ham and some of it fell in the beer. It's just got a very unusual taste, but that's the place where you get it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So how are the tasters? Have they had it yet from your family?
Yeah, they liked it. My
Uh,
son will drink any beer, and he likes the more strange, the better. Like most beer drinkers, they want to know all about the beer you had and where you get it. And so, yeah,
yeah.
it was a big hit when I brought it home.
Well, there you go. There you are. It's like you couldn't go, but I did. Here's your consolation prize. And it turns out to be really cool and different beer. I'm all for that, right? So,
So Bamberg
yeah.
had this old town that was just beautiful. It's also an UNESCO World Heritage Site, and it's a big, beautiful cathedral because that's where the prince bishops lived, in this big cathedral. And um, the interesting point about Bamberg was they had an upper town and a lower town. And it was from the like 1000. That's how old it is. 1800s. So they had an upper town and a lower town with this big river that ran through. And they wanted to connect the two parts. So back in the day, they took big trees and hammered them down into the mud and built a platform and built the old city hall right on this man-made island that spans the river. And it's the most beautiful architecture with murals and just very ornate. So that's a cool thing about this thing, going and you want to go there and take pictures of this beautiful old town hall.
Very cool. This is very, very cool. What an adventure, huh? So you did give out a website, and people is visit Franconia, and
Yeah.
you can go to frankentourismus.com. The link is in the episode notes. But what a wonderful week by rail.
In
The
all of these
history.
towns, they
Wow.
were in Franconia. So now it's called Bavaria. But at a time,
Okay.
Franconia was its own important region, just as important as Bavaria. But through history, they lost their maybe status. They had trouble with money, and they kind of they got overtaken or a part of Bavaria, but they have their own flag and they are very proud. And they are the wine lovers. Franconia are the wine lovers, and Bavaria, are beer drinkers. So they're a little different, but they're very proud of their heritage.
Well, it means you get to have wine and beer,
Yeah.
And I know they have good cheese in Germany too, to go with
I
all
had
of
the
this.
best food, sausages, and all of these foods that you think of today, sauerbraten and schnitzel, and all these wonderful foods. Really, very good food.
All right. Well, looking forward to next month. Next month, tell us where we are going. We're going to go back to Texas, right?
Yes, I went to Corpus Christi in the fall and did really fun, cool things there, rode horses on the beach. I wanted to talk about that and why people should go to Corpus Christi.
Excellent. And there's a lot of birds out there from what I've heard. So lots of nature. So everyone stay tuned for that. And of course, keep up with Sharon at SharonKKurtz.com. And that's Kurtz with a K. Since we're German, we might as well get the Kurtz and all of these
Yes.
words together and have a big party. And here's the deal. Just take a sip of wine or a beer and there's your excuse. That's it. Thank you so much, everyone. Again, check the episode notes because the new magazine, Wander the World with Sharon, is there. So thanks so much, Sharon.
Thank you. It was fun talking about Bavaria and Franconia with you.
I want to say Bavaria. I just do. Thanks for joining us here on Big Blend Radio's Wander the World with Sharon podcast. You can keep up with Sharon's adventures at SharonKKurtz.com. Follow Big Blend Radio at BigBlendRadio.com. Happy travels!